I tell you something, if you talk to our student athletes, several of them graduated yesterday, I tell you something, they are absolutely ecstatic about going to the Rose Bowl. And in many ways, I think that this is one of the great things about the Big Ten. Our tradition is winning the Big Ten and going to the Rose Bowl.
And that's sustained itself.
It really has sustained itself. I've been back for several years, and just the sustaining power of that is really quite palpable from everyone's point of view. Well, I voted against it, and I think that was a mistake. I think that was a mistake. I'm very clear on the record that I think that we should not have added that 12th game, and so I would hope that we would reconsider that sometime. There are proposals for us to reconsider the move to the 12th game. This was done under the guise of a grand experiment, but as with everything else, my point is you start down that slippery slope, and pretty soon it becomes reality. There are a few that couldn't. That's the truth. I mean, remember what I just said. There are of the 120 Division I-A schools, fewer than 6 are self-sustaining, of which Ohio State is one. We would do very well without the 12th game, and there are some institutions in today's economic environment that need to play every game that they possibly can. And why do you think some schools want to come and play in Ohio Stadium? They get a huge payday,
right?
And there's something about that that makes me quite sad that someone wants to come to play us just simply for a play day and not for the competitive value that there is in being with an Ohio State team. Well, I'm not certain who it sold it to, but it did sell it in some way, and I think that there was no rational reason, in my view, for us to move to a 12th game other than the fact that it perhaps made some economic sense. I think that one of the things that it's going to do for us, of course, is the fact that we're having to move our schedule. We will now play Michigan after Thanksgiving, which is not bad. I mean, there's kind of that could be fun, kind of a difference, kind of, but nonetheless, it does have an impact on some of the traditional patterns that we've had in college football. Yes, it does. Probably I would have moved back to 11 games and then thought about a championship game. So yeah, I mean, so therefore you're adding you're making a 13th game. So I'm not totally consistent, but I understand the issue is what I'm saying. Well, I don't think that the specialists of OSU and Michigan will ever go away. It's the greatest rivalry in college football, and no matter when they strike, when they do it, that rivalry will continue and even intensify, I suspect. I think that by and large presidents believe the BCS system works quite well. I think we've had all these added elements of the of additional conferences wanting to get into it, of the hearings that we're going through. None of that was anticipated in '95 when we really started putting this thing together. So I would have to say that yes, if push came to shove, that we would there would be a lot of sentiment. I'm not saying it's a majority, but there would be a lot of sentiment to move back to the bowl system rather than moving further down the street. I can guarantee you this: those 120 presidents will not vote for a playoff system. Well, I think it goes along several lines. Number one is the fact that the bowl system is very powerful in this country, and I think we should continue. Second of all, it is a way for us to reward student athletes for doing very good service, and when we have these bowls and people are able to play them, then they get a reward system. If we have a playoff system, if we do have an actual playoff system, the bowls will become irrelevant, and there will only be 4 or 5 or 6 teams that will actually participate in any kind of postseason play that is worth mentioning, and everything else will disappear. And the third thing is that it's a strong escalation toward the professionalization of college football, and I simply am opposed to it. I mean, mean, they have tried. Do you know how many emails I get about this? I must have at least 400 or 500 different variations or proposals have been sent to me, and I actually look at them. I mean, I'm not a Dumbo. I do think that one needs to be informed about it, but none of them make sense because the fundamental issue is one of longevity, escalation, and the issue of professionalization. Those are the things we need to be concerned about. My view, listen, we have a war in Afghanistan, we have an economic crisis, we have a variety of other things. One of the crises in this country is not the BCS playoff system, and I must say that I'm quite taken aback that Congress had even considered this. I think it's highly inappropriate, and particularly this time, for them to be dealing with this issue. Absolutely. I think the Big Ten Conference is the most tradition-ridden conference in the country. I mean, we have the best marching bands, we have the largest stadiums, we have the overall best attendance, we have that kind of powerful tradition that no other conference has. I was in the Southeastern Conference. I mean, they love their college football, but they have nothing of the kind of traditions we have here. And so in some ways, I love that tradition, but at the same time, we have to be thoroughly modern. We have to realize that the world has moved on, and I think that having a playoff for the Big Ten championship may make sense. I'm not, I'm not planting a stake in the ground on that issue, but it's something we now need to talk about. We cannot say, we can't look through the rearview mirror and say we love what we are. We need to say what can we be. Now, of course, one of the things that I laugh about is this: is the SEC got this big play on the ESPN contract. Well, that was a defensive move on ESPN because our Big Ten network and our affiliation, we still generate more revenue in terms of television revenue than will the Southeastern Conference or any other conference. We do very well. Yeah, it has. I mean, absolutely. I mean, having experienced the Southeastern Conference and having seen that evolution and watching, I truthfully, I would like to have seen the Big Ten game with the SEC championship with the Big 12. I mean, I would have to be honest about that and say that I would like to see that. On the other hand, we have a very special group of institutions, and the 11 institutions of the Big Ten are the 11. As a consortium, are the 11 most powerful academic institutions in America, so it's a great relationship.
Thank you, Doc.
What would be the 12th? If I were to add a 12th, I'm not going to tell you.
Everyone talks about Notre Dame.
I think there are a lot of usual suspects, but I'm just not going to speculate about that. We have to take a look and see what makes sense in terms of the culture of the country. I'm taking full credit for that. The last time they were there was my last year here, so I came back and here they go. So I think it's very important. I think the Rose Bowl is, of all of the bowls, very special, and I think the relationships are very special. It has this parade that is remarkable in its scope and depth and what it does. I think that the history and tradition of the Rose Bowl, all of that is so important to this conference and to our university. I cannot underscore how delighted we are to be going to the Rose Bowl. Let me tell you something, our grade point average of our football players is about a 3.0, nearly approaching the all university average. Our graduation rates are among the very best. We have 95 student athletes this year who are the most of any university in the country, most of any university in the Big Ten, who are on the academic All-American or the academic All-Big Ten list. And I mean, you can go on and on and on. Jim Tressel, in my view, and I say this to him privately, so is very clearly, I think, the best college football coach in the country. He knows how to do the X's and O's, obviously, but he knows how to do life even better, I think, and that's what I like about him. Well, I don't know enough about it to be able to comment. I think that the basketball tournament works pretty well. I don't want us to get into a free-for-all or a Donnybrook, and it seems to me that the more you expand, the more you do that. By the way, what's the good of having conference teams and conference invitations if in the end everyone else is invited? It's like we play and then we play again. I think there needs to be some level of competition.